You know that person in your life, the one who's brilliant, super analytical, and maybe just a little bit intimidating to debate with? Well, today we're cracking the code on that exact personality type, what we'll call the knowledge type. And look, this isn't about some slick sales trick. This is about real, genuine influence with your partner, your boss, your kids, anyone who operates on that powerful, logical wavelength.
Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off with this quote from the source material. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds intense, but it's not about being arrogant. It's about understanding that their entire world is built around intellectual horsepower. Getting this one fact is the absolute first step to really, truly connecting with them on their level.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to meet this personality type. Then, we'll dive deep into their core values. Think of it as their internal programming. From there, we'll decode their common behaviors, build a super practical user manual, and then finally put it all together to master the art of influence.
All right, section 1. Let's meet the knowledge type. I want you to picture the architect of ideas, the genius, maybe even a friendly K-bot. This is the person whose mind is a machine that is always running, constantly analyzing, processing, and piecing things together.
So, why the color green? Well, the source material links K-types to green, and it actually makes a ton of sense. Think about it. What color are those data-packed Excel spreadsheets? Green. What about the cascading code in the matrix? Green. And what about brilliant, innovative green tech? Yep, it just fits. It's the color of a complex mind that sees every single angle of a problem.
So how does a mind like that actually work? What makes it tick? That brings us right to their core values. You really have to think of this as their source code. If you can get a handle on these non-negotiable principles, you'll understand what drives every single one of their decisions.
And here it is, the supreme value, the big one, logic. For the K-type, everything, and I mean everything, has to make sense. The source gives this amazing analogy of a train on a track. Imagine you're explaining something. If what you say at point C doesn't logically follow from point B, their train literally derails. They are mentally stuck. They can't even hear what you're saying about D, E, or F because they're still back there trying to fix the broken track at C.
And logic is just the gateway. All their other values feed into it. They have this deep, deep need for learning, for intelligence, for self-mastery. It's why they're obsessed with expertise, why they demand accuracy, and why they're so often drawn to technology and R&D. So whether you're working with them on a project or even just trying to decide where to go for dinner, you got to remember these values are running in the background, filtering everything.
Okay, so we've seen the internal programming, but what does all that look like on the outside, in the real world? In this next section, we're going to decode how those values show up in day-to-day life. This is the code in action.
Now, this is absolutely crucial for any relationship with a K-type, personal or professional. When there's a disagreement, they're not going to respond to, "but it feels wrong." They're going to bring charts and data. They'll try to resolve conflict by breaking it down rationally, almost like a math problem. It isn't because they're cold or unfeeling. It's because logic is their most trusted tool for solving problems.
And that logical approach explains so many of their other behaviors, right? They're going to be super precise with their words. They're the person who will instantly spot a contradiction in your argument. They're often quiet at a party not because they're rude, but because they're busy processing everything around them. And yeah, they hate small talk. To them, it's just inefficient. They'd much rather get straight to a conversation with some real substance.
Which brings us to probably the most practical part of this whole thing, the K-type user manual. Think of this as your official cheat sheet for communicating effectively and, most importantly, for building trust.
Seriously, you might want to screenshot this one. On the left, this is your green light. Bring credibility, facts, data, and proof. Cite experts. Talk logic. On the right, that's the minefield. Avoid emotional hype, coming off as incompetent, and please, no pointless chit-chat. And that last one is huge. For any relationship, never, ever correct them in public. It directly attacks their core value of expertise, and that is a very hard thing to recover from.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've got their values, their behaviors, and the user manual. Now let's get to the whole point of this, the art of influence. And again, we're not talking about manipulation here. We're talking about connecting with that Kate mind in a way it understands and respects.
This quote right here, this is the whole secret. You cannot push, charm, or hype a K-type into agreeing with you. It will backfire every single time. The only person on this planet who can convince a K-type is the K-type. Your job isn't to be a persuader. Your job is to be the best darn librarian you can be, giving them all the information they need to build a logical case for themselves.
So how do you do it? It's actually a pretty simple three-step dance. First, you give them info, and then give them more info. Send the articles, the white papers, the data sheets, let them dig. Second, you have to be an expert, or at least have an expert on your side. Competence is their currency. And third, and this might be the hardest one, give them space. When they say, I need to think about it, that is not a rejection. They are literally telling you, I need to go run the numbers. You have to let them do it.
When you understand their need for logic, when you respect their process, and when you communicate in their language, you're doing so much more than just winning an argument. You're building a real bridge based on mutual respect. So the question isn't just about influence. It's about what amazing ideas you can create, what problems you can solve, and what relationships you can deepen. Now that you know the code, whose world are you going to unlock?